यू एस बेस्ड लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट रिलेशंस एसोसिएशन को 2007 में। इस तमाम के अलावा इनको कनाडा का टॉप 100 वुमेन में इनका नाम भी आया, यानी दी फाइनेस्ट वुमेन, 100 फाइनेस्ट वुमेन इन कनाडा, उसमें भी आपका नाम आया सस्कैचुअन 2012 में, सस्कैचुअन से मुतल्लिक। प्रोफेसर टेरेस जो हैं, इन्होंने अंडर ग्रेजुएट डिग्री यॉर्क यूनिवर्सिटी से हासिल की थी और मास्टर्स ड्यूक यूनिवर्सिटी से पॉलिटिकल साइंस में आपने लिया था। एमबीए की डिग्री भी रखती हैं। और अब ये तो उनकी तालीमी काबिलियत थी और इनके एवॉर्ड्स की बात हम कर रहे थे। इसके अलावा इस वक्त डॉक्टर डेफनी टेरेस जो हैं, ये टेड रॉजर स्कूल ऑफ मैनेजमेंट के साथ मुंसलिक हैं, डीन ऑफ टेड रॉजर स्कूल ऑफ मैनेजमेंट की हैं। इसके अलावा आपने इससे पहले भी जो एडवर्ड स्कूल ऑफ बिजनेस यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ सस्कैचुअन है, 2010 से लेकर 2016 तक आप सस्कैचुअन में भी डीन रह चुकी हैं। इसके अलावा एडवर्ड स्कूल ऑफ एसोसिएशन फॉर द एडवांसमेंट ऑफ कॉलेजिएट स्कूल ऑफ बिजनेस के साथ भी आप मुंसलिक रही हैं। यानी अ ग्रेट वुमन, आई थिंक। ऑफ कोर्स तालीम के साथ, शख्सियत के साथ, गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे भी, गवर्नमेंट के साथ भी आपने काम किया है। इदारों को बनाने में आपने बड़ा रोल प्ले किया है। एंड ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट इस वक्त शी इज़ आर्स इन ओंटारियो, टेड रॉजर स्कूल ऑफ मैनेजमेंट के साथ मुंसलिक हैं। वो हमारे साथ हैं। Professor Teres, I welcome you to the show, and good afternoon, good evening. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. It's nice to be here. I've been watching how delightful you are for the last half an hour, so I've just been sending secret texts.
डॉक्टर टेरेस का जिक्र आपके साथ किया है, डेफनी टेरेस का। मैं डॉक्टर मुर्तज़ा हैदर के बारे में भी बताती हूँ। प्रोफेसर मुर्तज़ा हैदर जो हैं, ऑफ कोर्स आपने पाकिस्तान से इंजीनियरिंग करने के बाद आपका पाकिस्तान में सहाफ़त से भी ताल्लुक़ रहा। आप कनाडा के बेशुमार जगहों पे लिखते हैं, आप अपने आर्टिकल्स भी लिखते हैं, आप के यहाँ के मुख्तलिफ़ अखबारों में आपके आर्टिकल्स आते भी हैं। बेहतरीन उस्ताद डॉक्टर मुर्तज़ा हैदर, प्रोफेसर मुर्तज़ा हैदर मेरे साथ हैं। डॉक्टर साहब अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
सलाम।
No problem. You know what? We are all human beings and we come across challenges. And of course, in challenges से नबर आज़मा होना हम सब की ज़िम्मेदारी है। आप मेरे साथ रहिएगा। आज के प्रोग्राम में, जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा, मेरे ये दो अजीम मेहमान हैं। द रीज़न आज के प्रोग्राम में वी विल हैव अर्पन खन्ना फ्रॉम हमारे प्रोविंस से, बिकॉज़ हमारे जो फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हैं उन्होंने इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों के साथ नेगोशिएट कर रहे हैं और जो इंश्योरेंस कंपनियों की रिक्वायरमेंट थी उसको पूरा करते हुए नाउ द बॉल इज़ इन इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज कोर्ट्स, ताकि किसी तरह से लोगों के प्रीमियम्स कम हो सके। एज जॉब्स नहीं हैं, स्ट्रेस का टाइम है, डू नॉट टेक इट अपने दिमाग के ऊपर इस वक्त को हावी मत कीजिएगा। आप ज़िंदा हैं, आप हेल्थी हैं, आप सेहतमंद हैं तो सब कुछ है। इंसान ज़िंदा है तो चीज़ें चलती रहेंगी, वरना जाने वाले चले भी जाते हैं, दुनिया में तो इसी तरह चलते ही रहना है। तो 5:15 बजे अर्पन खन्ना हमारे साथ होंगे। 5:30 बजे एज आई सेड कि मेंटल इशू इस वक्त जो है ना, मेंटल हेल्थ बहुत बड़ा इशू बना हुआ है और मेरी कोशिश होगी कि प्रोफेसर मुर्तज़ा हैदर से और हमारी जो डीन हैं प्रोफेसर डेफनी टेरेस, इनसे भी हम ये सवाल ज़रूर करें कि जो यंग बच्चे हैं, दे आर कन्फाइंड, घरों के बीच में कन्फाइंड अगर होके रह गए हैं, मेंटल इलनेस बहुत बढ़ती चली जा रही है। मैंने आपके साथ आज एक ईमेल शेयर भी की। मेरी एक बहन ने मुझे ईमेल किया है कि शी हैज़ 3 or 4 sons हैं, एंड वन ऑफ हर सन, बिकॉज ही डजंट want to stay home, तमाम मुश्किलात के बावजूद every second or third day the boy gets out of control और घर में एकदम से बुरी माहौल हो जाता है, झगड़ा है, बच्चा he doesn't have no friends, he is confined at home। और ये मेंटल, माँ ने अब मुझे लिख भी दिया, I do have the text, मेरा फ़ोन कहाँ गया, तो माँ ने बल्कि मुझे लिखा है कि हमें लगता है कि इसको कोई मेंटल इशू हो गया है। साहब, मेंटल इशू आप पेरेंट्स पे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। गिव मोर टाइम टू योर चिल्ड्रन, लिसन टू देम, ٹاک ٹو دیم. کسی وقت ان سے پیار کریں, کسی وقت ڈانٹیں بھی اس کو, مگر ان کی ضرورتوں کو پورا کرتے چلے جائیں. ڈو ناٹ اگنور دیم. آپ یو جسٹ لیو واچنگ ٹیلی ویژن. ڈونٹ واچ ٹیلی ویژن, جسٹ اسپینڈ ٹائم ود یور چلڈرن. اینڈ اف یو آر واچنگ سم تھنگ, واچ سم تھنگ وٹ یور چلڈرن وانٹ ٹو واچ. آئی ہیو ڈاکٹر ڈاکٹر مرتضیٰ حیدر میرے ساتھ ہیں. پروفیسر مرتضیٰ حیدر ہمارے ساتھ ہیں. پروفیسر صاحب السلام علیکم.
جی وعلیکم السلام.
ڈاکٹر صاحب, ڈاکٹر مرتضیٰ حیدر, اور آج ہم جو بات کرنے جا رہے ہیں رائرسن یونیورسٹی کی کے متعلق, یہ ٹیڈ راجرز اسکول آف مینجمنٹ کے بارے میں ہی بات کریں گے. جیسے ہم نے کہا ڈین جو پروفیسر ڈیفنی ٹیرس جو ہیں وہ بھی ہمارے ساتھ ہیں. اور ڈاکٹر مرتضیٰ جس حوالے سے ان سے بات کرنا چاہتے ہیں, آج کل بچے گھروں میں ہیں, ایوری تھنگ از بلریڈ ایٹ دا مومنٹ, کہ تعلیم آگے کیسے ہوگی, زندگی نے کیسے بدل جانا ہے, بچوں کے ایڈمیشنز کیسے ہوں گے. بہت سے لوگ فارن کنٹریز سے اپلائی کرتے ہیں جب یہاں پہ اپنے بچوں کی تعلیم کے لیے. تو یہ تمام چیزوں کا احاطہ کرتے چلیں گے جناب پروفیسر مرتضیٰ حیدر, اور ہماری جو پروفیسر ڈیفنی ٹیرس ہیں اس کے بارے میں بات کر چلیں گے. ایک بات کی میں ریکویسٹ کرنا چاہتی ہوں کہ آپ اس پروگرام کا حصہ بن سکتے ہیں. پہلے تو جو یہ بات چیت کریں, آپ اس پوری کی پوری بات چیت کو سنیے. اس کے بعد اگر آپ اس پروگرام میں آپ کے ذہن میں کوئی کنسرن ہے, سوال ہے, اگر آپ انگریزی میں نہیں اردو میں بھی کر سکتے ہیں, تو مرتضیٰ حیدر, پروفیسر حیدر جو ہیں وہ آپ کی زبان کو زیادہ بہتر طور پہ سمجھ سکتے ہیں. آپ اپنا سوال کیجئے گا اور وہ سوال کا جواب خود بھی دیں گے, اور جو پروفیسر ڈیفنی ٹیرس ہیں ان سے بھی سوال لے کے دیں گے. اسٹوڈیو کا نمبر ہماری فیس بک پہ بھی لکھا ہوا آتا ہے. اور وی گاٹ ٹو بی سیریس, دس از future of our children. پروفیسر مرتضیٰ حیدر, السلام علیکم.
جی وعلیکم السلام.
بات کرنی ہے, بالکل ہمارے ساتھ ہماری معزز مہمان بھی موجود ہیں جنہوں نے بے شمار اپنے آرٹیکلز لکھے ہیں, جرنلز میں لکھا ہے, گورنمنٹ کے ساتھ کام کیا ہے, ایک یونیورسٹی میں ڈین رہیں, دوسری یونیورسٹی میں ڈین رہیں. شی از ون آف دا دوز 100 سپرب وومن ان کینیڈا, ان کو بھی ریپرزینٹ کرتی ہیں. تو آپ اب ان سے بات کیجئے گا. مگر ڈاکٹر صاحب میرا کنسرن جو چھوٹتے مجھے آیا, میں نے اس کا ذکر ابھی آپ نے شاید سنا بھی ہوگا, مدر ہو کالڈ می فار دا ہیلپ, اینڈ آف کورس پنجابی کمیونٹی ہیلتھ سروسز ول بی آن بورڈ ود us to solve this issue, that if children are confined at home, young people are confined at home, they are having certain issues, and parents sometimes they don't understand their problem. They rush to the conclusion that they do have some mental issue. Now young kids, they don't want to go to the hospital or the doctors because they relate their problem with something else. تو آپ ذرا اس کو بھی ایڈریس کرتے چلیں. آپ کا بہت شکریہ ڈاکٹر صاحب فار producing and creating such a great program.
Thank you very much. Hi Daphne, it's Murtaza here.
I recognize you, Murtaza. I see you infrequently these days. This is the only way I've seen you, is on the screen.
I know. We are confined to our studies now. First of all, thank you so much for joining EAWAZ or Saaz Awaz today. The channel, we are being live broadcast on 7:70 a.m. on the AM dial, as well as on the Facebook. And essentially, this particular program is the voice of the South Asian community in the Greater Toronto area. We have one of the largest South Asian communities or diaspora anywhere in the world in Greater Toronto area. And unlike Toronto, we're still 50+% of the people who live in city of Toronto are not born in Toronto, but places like Markham and Brampton, key catchments for our students at Ryerson University. Our suburbs are much more diverse, with Markham being over 75% of the people being not born in Canada. So with such diverse population, we have the unique advantage of teaching the first generation of immigrants, in welcoming them to Ryerson and helping them being educated. So the first thing I would ask a series of questions that over the past we have received from parents. So I will ask those questions, and then at the same time we'll hope that the people will call in. So I'm going to start with this. Now, this is you started by saying that this is how we meet now, and you do your dean's meetings and dean's remarks through Zoom. What is Ryerson doing to cope with COVID-19, and how are you managing as a senior leadership at Ryerson University to ensure that students' lives are not interrupted?
These are really big questions. I wouldn't say that COVID snuck up on us, but there was a very, very tense period of time, both for the students and faculty and staff, where we were having to decide, were we going to go online or not? Were we going to go virtual? And we moved very, very quickly, within probably a weekend, to go from 100% in class to 100% essential service model where no one was there. It's been astonishing to me. I think 44,000 exams were written virtually. Hundreds of courses were finished, including the one you are teaching virtually. People who had never had any desire or knowledge of this technology have suddenly switched, and everybody has done it. For years as a dean, I was begging people to learn how to do this so that we could serve communities like Brampton. I would rather see students have the option of, logging in, staying home, coming in when there was something really exciting. But the thought of someone coming in 3 hours of commuting to get to see us, to hear a very mundane lecture, was something I don't love doing for my students. So it's the unusual professor. It's the professor like you, MURTAZA, who already was conversant with it and was teaching colleagues how to do it. But now, after years of professors resisting doing this, within a weekend, everybody switched. So the sense of urgency and the desire to do well by students was so strong. Even I was surprised. What Ryerson has done, Ryerson has given out already over $6 million in student support. We know that because we have first generation students, and because many of our students work in restaurants, in hotels, in industries that have been particularly hard hit, service sector. Some of our students were having trouble buying food, paying rent. And so I think Ryerson was probably the first university to give relief money to students, and we continue to raise and give out relief money to our students. We meet every day like this on Zoom meetings or Google Meets or any of the other technologies. And I've been really quite astonished. Another thing, MURTAZA, we had all these free boot camps for students where students would take, they'd learn Excel, they would learn skills and so on. During the exam period, when students are normally at home studying, over 1,000 of our business students logged in and learned through their computers, learned boot camp skills like Excel, Tableau, Power of B, you know all of the ones. And it means that we are totally connecting with our students. We intensified advising. We improved.
Absolutely.
We didn't deteriorate. We actually spent the last month improving our services.
Indeed. In fact, I remember over the last 2 years, you have been pushing and nudging us towards this enterprise. And it took us a pandemic for people to realize what you have been telling us for the last 2 years. So I'm glad that not for the circumstances, but at least I'm happy that we are embracing new modes to communicate and to help with learning. One of the unique features of our program here is that our listeners are often parents who themselves have not received higher education in Canada. So a lot of them, perhaps majority of them, have attended universities in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Iran, and other places. And for them, there is sort of a lack of earned experience as to know how to advise their kids to what to study, which universities to go to. Should higher education be something that their children pursue? I think that's not necessarily a question. They all are convinced that their children should study and go to universities, but they don't know how to advise them and what to tell them. So the question I have for you is, what do you think of higher education for children who are in the high school right now, thinking about careers, thinking about their options? And does the management or business education, is it still relevant from a career perspective.
Yeah, I think COVID shows us it's more relevant than ever because we will have to recover from this, and recovery will actually stress all the business skills that we learn are being challenged more now than ever before. I think we've never been more relevant. But I say, as a mother of 4 children myself that had to make decisions, and also as an immigrant myself, my parents couldn't help me. And we were at a tremendous disadvantage, we who had parents who did not come from Canada, who didn't know the schools and the reputation of each school. And when I was applying for university, we didn't have the internet then. We had to, the students had to make phone calls. They had to learn from other students. Often we didn't have friends that went to university, and we were really in the dark. I think that this current generation has much more advantage in being able to look up universities on websites, in being able to reach out to students. Alumni associations now exist. There are hotlines. It's actually easier to find information. In fact, maybe even too easy to find information. So, what would I tell parents? I would say, let your children work with the guidance counselors who often are briefed. So every business school, every university has outreach officers, and we deal with high school guidance counselors. And often the guidance counselors are a good source of information. They won't tell you which school to go to, but they'll choose a set of maybe 3, 4, 5 schools. And Canadian education is so uniform. All of us deans are trying to establish a competitive advantage. Ryerson's competitive advantage is it's extremely entrepreneurial. It's downtown. It's gritty. It's higher aspiring, and it's really energized by immigrants. It's that kind of energy to succeed that fuels Ryerson. But other schools have other kinds of energy. But generally speaking, it's not like being caught in the United States system where the difference between the top and the bottom is it's so, the range is so huge. No matter where you go in Canada, you're not going to be making a terrible mistake. So that I would like to calm parents down, first of all, that it's not such a consequential decision in Canada. It doesn't establish your social class. It's in the United States, if you say you go to Harvard or you go to Yale, it establishes a social class immediately. Here in Canada, we never ask people what school they went to. We ask them what degree they did. And so I think that it's a lower risk proposition for Canadian parents. I'd like to calm everybody down that you can't make terrible mistakes here.
True.
Is that
Very true.
A message from my heart to the parents that are stressed?
It's very true. I think that's the fundamental benefit of public education, that universities in Canada are public universities, and this discrimination or distinction between public and private universities, where private universities with billions of dollars, I think Harvard has an endowment of about $30+ billion, right? So Harvard is richer than maybe half the countries in the world. But that kind of discrimination does not exist in Canada, partly because most, if not all of our universities are public sector universities. When students come to Ryerson University...
Oh, but MURTAZA, I have to say, because I'm in the process of recruiting, as you know, that I've hired 15 new, fresh professors, and I'm about to hire a bunch more, despite COVID. And what I want to say is because so many universities are afraid to hire right now, we're getting the same quality of instructor that somebody would get at an absolute top caliber place. The job market is very difficult for new scholars. And so we're getting the quality of person hiring, including in your department, that
Absolutely.
Probably was inconceivable 15 years ago. Research active, yes. Fantastic in the classroom, relevant experience. It's a great time to be a school that's hiring.
Yes. And I must say, for parents who are listening to us,
this is Majid speaking, and can I interrupt? Can I get involved in this conversation? Very interesting, very interesting. Professor Teres, like we were just talking about parents, and especially where I came from and where Dr. Murtaza came from, parents play a very big role in what the students or what my kids are going to be doing. But like Dr. Murtaza said, we haven't got the education from this part of the country or this part of the world. So, beside me, I'm an alumni from Ryerson. But for majority of the people, do you have a program where when the kids come to your university, parents, you should guide parents what they're going to be doing, and have meetings with them first?
That's such an interesting question, because we just started last year when we have student orientation. We have been inviting the parents to their own orientation, because parents have changed. It's not just that immigrant parents want to know what's going on. It's that all parents are highly involved in their children's education right now, to the point that we have a funny phrase for it. We call it helicopter parents. And as a dean, we're caught in the stress of wanting the parents to mentor their students and develop really good adults. But when a student brings a parent along to a meeting, it's so not done. So we're trying to tell the parents simultaneously, be involved in your students' education, but back off, right? So it's a very odd message, but we are starting at the Ted Rogers School of Management. We're actually starting a newsletter for parents. My associate dean is starting to write a briefing for parents of what's going on, so parents can at least feel involved. And a number of schools are starting to do that, because we see that parents, while they don't necessarily, or we discourage them from coming with their kids to appointments, nevertheless, they want to know what it feels like, and they want to know what their kid is involved in, and they want to know, one of the things I say to parents is ask your son or daughter, have they taken our free boot camps? Did they join a club? Why aren't they participating more in the extracurricular events? And then the parent goes, now I know that there are other things other than classes. So I like to brief the parents so that they inspire the students.
I would like to
Dr. Muzaffar,
to ask about
question which I sent you, please.
I think Ryerson, Ted Rogers School of Management, is the largest undergraduate business program in Canada. I think we have over 11,000 full-time students. One thing that comes to us all the time from students is how active our student body is, how many groups of students, how many associations. How has your experience being as the dean of the program and looking at how much opportunities the school provides to students to get involved outside of the classroom, so that their learning continues in not in an academic way, but we keep building character, we keep building a sense of belonging and association amongst our students?
Well, we have 38 active student clubs. In some of them, we have a student club that will be devoting itself to mental illness, which your show was just featuring maybe half an hour ago, where we're doing it virtual this year. We have student clubs in academic disciplines. We have the Student Society, the Ted Rogers Student Society, the Undergraduate Society, which develops leadership, just made, I'm actually, don't tell anyone because I'm giving you the scoop as a media, but they just made $100,000 donation. So the students made $100,000 donation for student relief efforts. And so that shows you the degree to which the students, independent of the professors, are running their own organizations. They have huge conferences, they have competitions, and by the time they graduate, the really good students will have been, it's not a question of getting an A average, because that's what you need to get to be a professor. But if you're going to get a really good job, it's a question of getting a B average and having a really good experience to sell to a future employer. I organized a conference. I know the modern technology. I can demonstrate value. So the more people know the less they'll focus on grades and the more they'll focus on creating a valuable human.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And Dr. Murtaza, आपको मैंने सवाल भेजा है. Please, if you can ask. And I got another question on the Facebook. I think this is some student who called and asked this question. So, yes, Dr. Murtaza.
To messaging services.
Sorry. Terrace, a question what I got is, clearly COVID has raised many alarms and will certainly change our society. Do you believe online education will become more prevalent in future and possibly replace the standard classroom? Also, what are the plans of the university and other educational institutions to make public education more accessible online? Without a doubt, the internet is a great source of learning, but how will you facilitate it and ensure students actually learn?
Well, I'm going to sit back and chew on that question. We do not want to be an internet-based online. There are other academic institutions like Athabasca that specialize in online. I really enjoy the idea that students can take a few courses online, a few courses hybrid, but they also come to campus because that's where they're practicing their leadership and they're getting together. This is sort of a temporary phase. I like to say as a mother, there's few parents that would put their children in front of a computer for 40 courses over a 5-year period to get through. If you have blended education, that is absolutely the best. That way we're respectful of the strains that students put themselves in. They're working. Sometimes they can't come to class, but there is no way that I personally would want a child of mine to do an entire degree online. In fact, there is a lot of evidence that students who start online degrees, maybe only, I'm going to invent a number, but maybe only 10% can finish an entire degree online. And the rest of them drop out because you get fatigued by it. You wear down, you fail to complete, you drop the course, it's not terribly interesting. And so I think that students really do need the energy and excitement that comes with human interaction. We can be online for the COVID period and we can feel like, oh, we're coping really well. But if we had a choice between meeting person to person, do you not think that Murtaza and I would enjoy each other's company more, sitting in an office, drinking our coffee the way we usually do? So that's my answer to the question. Our professors are getting much better. Their teaching techniques will improve. They will learn how to do things that are more exciting and more relevant to students. And we actually just hired 8 students plus a master's in media production student to create a SWAT team of students that are helping professors figure out how to put their online education in a way that students really find enjoyable. There's no point in other 50-year-olds telling a 50-year-old how to be enjoyable to a student. We've actually hired our own students to do it. But I think that there will be a massive wave of improvement in education, but I don't think it's a question of making a total transition to online. You lose too much value.
तो मैं भी यहाँ पे बात करती चली जाऊँगी कि प्रोफेसर डेफनी टेरेस ने बड़ी खूबसूरत बात कही कि बड़ी उम्र के लोगों के पास तजुर्बा है, बड़ी लोगों की उम्र के पास वसी एक्सपीरियंस है, मगर नौजवान बच्चों को समझाने के लिए उन्होंने 14-15 स्टूडेंट्स को हायर किया है, ख़ास तौर पे सोशल मीडिया की ट्रेनिंग फॉर द यूथ. इट्स अ ग्रेट वर्क डॉक्टर मुर्तज़ा.
Absolutely. We let our young students teach us as well. Education is not a one-way street. We learn by being in classrooms that it's a two-way process, not just at the PhD level or the master's level, but our young undergraduate students end up teaching us a lot and help us improve being better teachers. And so that is very true. And therefore, that's the reason why we put our students in a learning and as well as a teaching environment. There is a question that I am often asked by parents, and that is specifically about admissions. Daphne, if someone wants their child, or if someone's child would like to come to Ryerson and study at Ted Rogers, they have to make some choices when they are in high school. They have to take some subjects. It cannot be that you may take whatever you want and then you end up at a business school. Would you like to advise parents that if they see that their kids and their children in high school, have a knack for management or business education, should they be advising them of certain courses, specific courses in high school that would facilitate their subsequent admission at Ryerson in the business school?
We generally take students based on their grade point average as long as they have certain subjects. And we like to see our students be fairly strong in math. The reason for strength in math, as well as writing, I mean, obviously business students have to be able to write, they have to write memos, and they have to write policy papers. But the problem with students who are afraid of math, if your child is afraid of math, it will be very difficult to be in a business school because there will be some subjects that will draw on math. And I like to say, the fear of math is unfounded. It may be taught in a way that's not resonant with a student that's interested in business. MURTAZA, for example, is a professor who teaches data analytics and business and statistics. And every question he raises where he uses a technical tool or a tool that requires math is something that's relevant and practical. And I think that's the way you hook students. So if you have a student who's very, very interested in business, but they have no affinity whatever for math, or they're failing math, I would say it's a tough slog. On the other hand, don't give up, because your student can go to liberal arts. They can be a dancer. I was a dancer. I was not a business. I want every parent out there to know that I have a classical dance education, and from there went into business. You can do an MBA later on. You can catch up. So instead of putting pressure on an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old where they're just not ready, I wasn't ready for business until I was in my 30s. Just be patient. I have 4 children, and every single one of them started a university program and ended in a different program. So they switch around a huge amount. So just be patient. If your kid is interested in business, they have greater chance of being successful when they have a little maturity under their belt. A child who does an MBA later on may actually do better in business or have better ideas. If they're interested in science and engineering, I would encourage them to go into science and engineering, because there are a lot of excellent business ideas that come out of science and engineering. Fashion industry is generating all kinds of interesting ideas. So business can come out of anything. You can get the business skills later, but it's very hard to get the business ideas out of a business school.
I agree. I think I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to COVID-proof fashion coming out in spring, and that's a new line of clothing. So one more question about the continuation of education. Many students, and we admit about roughly 3,000 students every year to Ted Rogers. Are we planning to run on schedule, welcome the new class in September on schedule? What are our plans there?
Well, we are. I wish I could speak to Ala directly, but it's not going to happen in the next few weeks, at least. We are anticipating that this recovery from COVID, as we start coming out of our cages, our small homes, our rooms, some people are operating in their laundry rooms with their computer screens. As we start coming out, we're going to come out at different stages, and we'll come out to small gatherings. And it will be very difficult for us to hold a class of 200 or a class of 500 because we won't be able to have the social distancing. And as well, a lot of professors, a lot of the deaths of COVID are people my age and older, and a lot of our professors are not spring chickens. We've hired a lot of young ones, but we also have a lot of not so young ones. And we will be more vulnerable. So it could be that the students are ready and the faculty is not. So we're right now planning on starting, the likelihood is we will start with virtual education. And my position that I will be carrying to the university, because we're still in the middle of making policy, is if we start virtual, I don't think it's possible in the middle of the semester to make a forced switch. I think that if some professors are teaching smaller classes, or it's important for some of the students to start gathering to re-socialize themselves, that's fine. But other students should be given the option to continue from distance education. If you're living in Brampton and you were planning, we don't want to endanger any students. So some students may come in classes of 20 and we'll have social distance, but I think then the professor will be reaching out to the students that can't come, so that we truly will be having a blended semester. So I would say to parents, plan for virtual. If you're lucky, there will be opportunities for the kids to come together. But all of the universities, and particularly Ryerson, we're doing virtual open houses. We're going to be talking to parents virtually. Every single one of our student advisors is being booked from morning to evening. They've spent thousands of hours talking to students. And so we've actually improved the services we have for students. Don't tell your students not to start because it's going to be a bad year. They're going to start differently than they're going to end their degree. But I think it's safe to plan to start. And I think if you send them to a good school and you ask questions, do they have advisors? How are they doing student orientation? Are they training the students to use new technology? Are they testing the technology in advance? How do the students get textbooks? We basically are trying to have textbooks free launch of classes so that students don't have any problem at all getting online. And I would encourage parents to get their students to think that way. They want to go to a place that really is prepared to do a good launch. We don't want to end in 4 years this way, but we want to start students well. And we're prepared to do it. Don't delay sending your kids to university. There will not be job opportunities for them. They're just going to basically sit in the basement and play video games. Yeah, might as well send them to school.
Absolutely.
Dr. MURTAZA, I have a question, and it's regarding
Majid bhai, before you go
summer
with the
jobs
question,
and co-ops. There is a person wants to know about a good number of students depend on summer jobs and co-ops to cover their expenses. Is the university doing anything to give them a relief or waive their tuition fees?
We're not waiving tuition because they're getting all of the services. It was very, very costly for us to make a switch. We purchased 200 computers to loan out to our students. The university purchased hundreds more computers. We bought hotspots. The students are under the impression that it's easier for us. It's financially easier for us. We're going to make gobs of money if we go online. And it's not true at all. Actually, we have intensified our student advising. There's more need for online tutoring. So the idea that we're going to drop our tuition, I think, is off the table, but we are providing more money in relief to students who need relief. So that's my answer. But with regard to the co-op question, the Ted Rogers School of Management hit an all-time high of 1,512 co-op job spots. And we have a staff of about 8 to 10 people who are full-time doing nothing but calling and securing jobs for students. We know that a lot of those co-op jobs have vanished. And we have not laid off any of our co-op advisors, nor will we, because never has there been a time where our students need more help in securing jobs. And so I'm making a promise that we will intensify our efforts to get students jobs. So right now, as we're speaking, I know that every single co-op staff person, if you bring them a lead, they will follow up. And for employers out there who are thinking about it, there are very good government subsidies available that cut in half the cost to you of having a co-op student. So if you've had to lay off full-time people because you can't afford a full-time person, I'm not suggesting that co-op is a better way to go. But if there's 10% of that job that requires Excel spreadsheets or the ability to go on Zoom conference calls or so on, please contemplate hiring a co-op student to get you through this crisis until such time as you can hire again. And you will be so pleased by what you see from our co-op students that whenever you hire, you will hire them. But, my priority is just keeping your businesses running. And right now, the government is being very good about offering subsidies. We know how to get the right student in the right job for the right amount of money. So come to us if you have any employment needs. We'll take part-time students, we'll take full-time, we'll create jobs, we'll double up, we'll do anything right now to keep our students employed. I would much rather employ students than give them relief money.
Professor Daphne Terrace. Now, Asma Ajmal, I thank you very much. You said that also institutions are important to develop personality. The classroom teacher teaches a lot more than academics. That's a very good comment, Ms. Asma Ajmal. Thank you very much. There is another question. Now, I will introduce once again, I would like to say the Dr. Murtaza or Professor Murtaza HAIDER is a great person, there's no doubt about it, but the woman, I always support women and especially the great women. Professor Daphne Terrace, Dean of Ted Rogers School of Management, along with so many awards, books, journals, and she is one of the top 100 women here in Canada. We are definitely pleased to have her with us. Dr. Murtaza, we have a caller with us. Ji, Assalamu alaikum. It's a special caller.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Appa.
You stop it, Samina. You stop it before you go any further. I will. The way I always take pride of Dr. Murtaza HAIDER, I would like to take the pride of all the women in our community and those even who are not working at the moment, looking after and taking care of the children. I guarantee you are very talented women. Get a chance to go out and do something. You can prove yourself the best of the best way. Samina Talat, who is our caller at the moment, Dr. Murtaza HAIDER and Professor Daphne Terrace, she is Vice President of Red Cross here in Canada. Samina, yes, thank you very much for being with us. What's your question?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I do want to commend Ryerson and particularly Saaz Awaz in 770 AM in taking this initiative. Myself being in the healthcare sector and in the emergency healthcare sector that we're involved in right now, we hear a lot from the medical industry and the healthcare industry, but we have not really heard much from the academia. So I do sincerely appreciate that you've taken this initiative. I have one or two questions, one particularly with regards to the impact on a unionized workforce that you foresee this entire COVID situation happening. The second question is that as human beings, adaptation and adoption of behavioral change takes a significant amount of time. What measures are you going to put in place to support your workforce, academia, as well as your student workforce in order to have that gradual adoption of this new system of education that's going to unfold in our environments?
I'm assuming, Murtaza, it's okay if I answer this.
Terrace. Absolutely. I think people don't know that the labor, this falls right into your...
Yeah. So I am a union management relations specialist, and I'm keenly aware of what's happening with collective agreements and watching them across the country. In the short term, what I'm seeing is almost a paralysis because of the scope of the problem. We know that in order to prevent job loss, we have to pivot. All of these years of attention to job descriptions and classification systems and all of the unionized slotting in and seniority and all that stuff is being extremely challenged by by what's happening with COVID. For example, in my own faculty, when hundreds of staff people are working from home, there are some people that are highly employed. For example, our student advisors, our tutors are highly employed right now, and yet there's very little work for other people. Pre-COVID, any effort to reclassify people to where they're needed more would have resulted in union grievances. Now is a time that you can actually get people to voluntarily retrain and move more seamlessly from one job classification, one family of jobs to another. So I'm seeing that immediately. We're able to cut deals with the union to save jobs, so they know where jobs are empty and where they're needed. So rather than hiring new people for where the jobs are needed, they're trying to save employment. So there's one labor management thing that I'm observing. Another thing that I'm observing is companies making a very interesting calculation. COVID is temporary. It may be long, but it's temporary. And so what is the cost of severing a workforce and then having to reassemble a similar workforce after, albeit with more flexible skills, versus the cost of retaining that same workforce, trying to sort of soldier through this period and then reactivating them later. And so a lot of people are saying, people like Ryerson are saying we would prefer to retain whenever possible and see people through and then have them be a little bit more flexible than pay those awful severance costs and take on almost the immorality of laying off people knowing you have to bring them back. And I'm seeing a lot of people taking advantage of the government offer. You know, if we can lay them off, then they'll go on the government payroll, and then we need them, we'll get them back. I would rather work with them in continued employment where their seniority is not jeopardized. With regard to behavioral change, it's a new world. I don't know. Our assumption that people who work from home were not going to be productive, I'll give you, out of the data that we know of people's absenteeism rates, collective agreements allow people to have a certain number of days of sick leave. But we know there's a huge amount of pretense behind that sick leave because some people are declaring the sick leave to look after sick children, after elder care, after a spouse that's having chemo. But they can't declare it that way. So they say they're sick, they take the entire day off, you get a total loss of 100% loss of productivity. What we're seeing with this blended environment, where we're giving people more choice, is that we actually may be able to go to slightly more productive and less deceptive workplace arrangements that can accommodate more needs. So as a labor relations person, I work with the rights and responsibilities framework. If people get the right to stay at home, then they have a responsibility to be productive and to log in and to attend meetings when possible. So I think there's going to be some very, very big changes coming up in labor management relations. Big, big changes.
So a quick reply from you, because we do have now callers. There is another very good question which I definitely want to be addressed, because this is a question by a young man. He says, do you feel there will be a change in the social interaction between the faculty of the university and the students? And how will the campus encourage, support students to return to the normal and engage in coming to the classes? Because it's a very good question. And Dr. Muzaffar, would you mind to explain first? Because we have a couple of callers on the telephone line as well, and these are mostly students. I thank all the parents, because I believe some of the parents, they brought their kids in to understand and listen to this show and call accordingly. Yes, Dr. Musa, your question, that will there be a difference between the faculty and there will be gaps between faculty and the students, or what will happen?
I think the communication has rather enhanced, and I say it from my just sample of one. That is, in the past 3 or 4 weeks, I spent a great deal of time answering emails and holding the Zoom meetings independently, individually, or collectively with students. I'm not saying that it's a substitute for face-to-face meetings, but I'm saying that the number of students contacting me now since COVID-19 lockdown is far more than they would. I would see that they would walk into my office. I go to work every day. When the university is open, I'm there every day, and my door is open. But I don't get to see students walk in and say, "I have a question." That happens in the normal day very rarely. But now with this new environment, students are feeling comfortable emailing us, asking us questions. And then instead of just responding by email, I actually tell them, would you like me to call you back? Would you like me to go on Zoom and we can have a conversation? And I think all of my colleagues at Ryerson and other universities are doing that. My thinking is that there is a barrier that students sometimes think in their mind that maybe they shouldn't go and disturb the professor in their office, which is not the right thing to do. We are there every day to help that's the only reason we are in this job, to help our students and answer their questions. But with the email and this electronic communication being enhanced as of the last 3 weeks, at least my limited experience is that students are really taking advantage of it. And I'm very happy. I'm very pleased that my students are sending me so many emails, because at the end of the day, our job is to answer questions. That's why we became professors, to answer questions, to communicate with our students. And if it takes in a pandemic for my students to get hold of me, I can live with it.
Doctor, before I go to Doctor to the next question, I would like to share a good news. I just got it. Sava, thank you very much, our associates and colleagues here in the studio. Now there's a good news, but I request, even when you listen to this good news, you hear this good news, still stay at the distance, stay safe, do not go out. It's a good news that Canada is flattening the coronavirus curve. That's a good news. This is the expert's explanation. Rather than be a spike, now it's a curve in Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, BC, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is almost flat now. And New Brunswick, all these places now. Alhamdulillah, the curve it's a flattened form. I wish you all the best, but still you have to take all the precautionary measures. Now, Doctor, next question, Dr. Musa, because the parents, they encourage their children to listen to the show, and now there are some of the students who called. I'll take another call. Yes, hello. I got a call.
Hello. Yes, are you on the air?
Hello.
Haji.
Just tell your name, because on the television, on the Facebook, we have to write down your name though.
Oh, मैं आमना इजाज बात कर रही हूँ.
आमना इजाज बात कर रही हूँ. जी बेटा.
Assalamualaikum. I have a question. Yes. Hello?
Yes, what is the question?
Yeah. So for students who are part of SHSM who are unable to complete it, what would happen to them?
Good question. Good question. Dr. Musa or Professor Daphne Terrace, who will answer?
So could you repeat the question, please?
So my question is for people who have SHSM, like for kids in high school, and those who are unable to complete it, what would happen to them?
Those who are unable to complete their education at the school and it's a university admission time, or what will happen to them?
No, they're SHSM.
Okay, Dr. Musa understand better.
And I will pass it on to the dean, because I would not know what happens with admissions.
Well, I'm just as clueless, Murtaza. No, we meet with the registrar every 2 or 3 days. We have a Zoom meeting with our entire senior administration. Every student in Ontario is in exactly the same situation. And we know that every student feels like they're unique and they're isolated, but we see all of them together. So for some students, maybe you're completing badly. So let's deal with the students who we were basically told by the higher education system, the idea that students are going to have great math skills or finish Zoom with the same quality of education in high school that they started the term with, forget it. They're going to come to university with little deficits. So already we have set up boot camps for math prep, for getting people ready. We know what our hotspots are, and we're ready for that. If you haven't been able to finish high school at all, I'm not sure what's going to happen to you. I would encourage the finishing of high school, complete high school, however it's completed. We are going to conditionally admit students before we get their final grades if there's delays in getting the grades and so on. But I would encourage you to get better information from the university system on how to handle incomplete transcripts from high school. Because I think you and hundreds of thousands of other students are in the same boat. And I don't have the bandwidth to answer your question. I think this is a question basically for the Ontario university system.
डॉक्टर मुर्तज़ा, ये सवाल तो बड़ा वैलिड है कि वाकई अगर जैसे वो कहते हैं कि बच्चों को प्रमोट कर दिया जाएगा, you know, it's a future of a young person who's completing his or her grade 12. Now my next question is
caller.
Yes, caller. Hello.
Ji, assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Ji, so I've read many research articles, and a lot of them have indicated that campuses can be breeding grounds for a wide spectrum of health complications, such as the common flu and, of course, COVID. Now, I'm a student at the University of Toronto, and they have addressed some diseases like STDs and the flu. My question now is, like, how will universities address this issue? Because currently they're not addressing it to the extent that they should.
Yes, Dr. Muzaffar, would you please answer?
So I listened to the our premier today, Premier Ford, and he spoke to parents about education, and he said there are two priorities for the Ontario government. One is the well-being and safety of our students, and second is that their education is not interrupted. So the government is not just looking at high schools and whatnot. All the universities in Canada are also respond to the provincial government. Education is a provincial matter in Canada. So
I'm sorry, I think, can you hear me instead? Or did we just have a Zoom failure?
Dr. I can't hear you now. Something is... Murtaza.
Okay, Dr. Murtaza's line's been disconnected.
Yes,
for some reason.
Dr. Daphne, Dr. Terrace, please, you explain it.
Okay, Murtaza has given a public policy explanation, and I'm going to tell you some things that I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, even in terms of the health and safety of students. We cannot think that COVID-19 is the last pandemic. There may be a COVID-27, a COVID-31. And even in the last few weeks, I've been on internet calls, even with furniture manufacturers. We want to make sure that our equipment is sterile. We're paying much more attention to hand washing. We're paying a huge amount more attention to not creating breeding grounds. So I was talking to furniture manufacturers who are going to start inventing or marketing, wood is worse than, it's harder to sanitize wood than other things. So we're looking at every single thing. You'll notice walking on university campuses, the amount of Purell and hand sanitizers and notes to wash hands. What's been interesting during COVID is, I think Israel just produced a report that said that because of all the hand washing that's going on in the social isolation, all diseases are less. There's less common cold, there's less flu, influenza is down. And so whatever habits we're learning from COVID probably will continue throughout the next few decades, and that actually will save money to the health system. The more people are trained to cope with COVID, the better off they will be in saving money in future illnesses, because we will stop being those breeding grounds. So that's a more interesting, that's not a public policy answer. That's more, I think that we're making some really lasting changes. Don't think of them as COVID changes, think of them as anti-contagion changes, and that will make you feel better about walking around University of Toronto.
Daphne Terrace, Professor Daphne Terrace is with us. Dr. MURTAZA HAIDER, we just dropped his line. Dr. Daphne, Professor Daphne, thank you very kindly for being with us. There are many callers, there are times. I understand parents have to play a role, professors have to play a role, universities and schools have to play the role. We, the human beings, we disturb the equilibrium. Yes, Alhamdulillah, we are happy to announce today, I got the report from the government office that the curve is flattened now, but we must not pollute the air. In these 3 months, there is less pollution. I was reading an article in a certain part of Italy where these whales and dolphins were not seen for years and years. They came back over there. I was reading another article which was saying that there will be more breeding in the birds and animals this year because they see human beings confined in the cages. But Dr. Daphne Terrace, I thank you very much, and I hope you will be part and parcel to the program again. And I thank Dr. MURTAZA HAIDER, Professor HAIDER, for his effort to bring you on board in this South Asian channel.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and let me say that if the phone lines have lit up, I would happily come back. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and great questions.
Young people joined us today. Of course, parents, they do have concerns. The kids, they do have concerns. And I thank you. We could not, हम कोशिश करेंगे कि डॉक्टर मुज़फ़्फ़र हैदर को एक दफ़ा फिर से जोड़ें ज़रूर. Professor Daphne Terrace, you are a wonderful person. Thank you very much. We are definitely, and you are a role model for many young girls.
If you want me to ever come on and talk about how difficult it is to be a woman through the fertile period and then, have your career take off, I would be happy to talk to you about that too.
I will welcome you more than happily. Ask me, and I understand, but you are doing a great job shaping up our youth, bringing new incentives, initiatives, innovations in the university. I thank you very kindly. And I thank Dr. MURTAZA, Professor MURTAZA HAIDER, from the bottom of my heart.
Muzaffar HAIDER is one of our finest professors, and your community should be very, very lucky to have him. He is exceptionally good at teaching and conveying his information. We're very grateful.
So here, Dr. Musa will say the final words. Dr. Musa, you're back again. Where were you gone? To make tea, or you know what? Sometimes these days men are at home, and it's been told that they have to interrupt in between their work, and they have to go and help in the kitchen or complete the laundry. Was it so, or the line was just dropped?
My phone just died on me, so I'm really sorry. So I had to quickly reconfigure, and I'm back on my phone, my computer now. I just didn't notice that the battery was just dying. Anyhow, I think we are concluding. I just wanted to say how grateful we are, Daphne, for being able to answer concerns and questions about from the South Asian community. I think we are very proud of our students who have never amazed us every single day. And I think on behalf of my colleagues at Ryerson University, not just the professors, but also the staff, I want the parents to know who are listening that Ryerson is a very welcoming place. Ryerson is a place that where from top to our dean, all the way to every advisor, and in the middle, all the professors and instructors,
we are committed to our students. That's the reason why we are so excited going to work every day. And it doesn't really matter if this COVID-19 has prevented us from being at our place of work physically, but we are using every technology possible to ensure that our students, their needs are met, their learning remains uninterrupted, and that we're fully behind our students every day, irrespective of the circumstances. We are going to use the technology to the very best to serve the needs of our students. I am very grateful to the Dean. She's a very busy person. There are 1,000,001 people trying to get hold of her and get the best of her time. She has given us more than an hour, and we are very grateful for her kindness and for being with us today. Thank you.
Kindly for both of you. I thank all the listeners who were with me, and I thank everybody on the Facebook. Asma Baji, thank you. Samina, thank you. Ali, thank you very much. Masoodul Hassan, thank you very much. And I believe, yes, it is informative. We will definitely bring them on board again with us. Thanks to everybody. Thank to Professor Daphne Terrace and Dr. MURTAZA. Stay tuned. We'll go for some commercials.